Kishore, sorry, I miss you all. I don't know whether voice was coming or not. Nitin, you should have told me that voice is not coming. Okay. Now I'm just again sharing all this what I've said. Cybersecurity by Mr. Satya, 6:30 p.m. today. I'm CA Nitin Patak calling. I'm a founder president of Visakha chapter Ahmedabad. Those who are attending the CP program of this, just mail me at nitinampatak@gmail.com or 98 WhatsApp with your CP number, with your membership number. I will see that you get a CP credit for this. Isaka chapter Ahmedabad is organizing this seminar. Uh, the cybersecurity by incident management is going to be taken by Mr. Satya. Satya is working in Bank of Baroda and he is a DGM. He is very powerful. He has done CSAN series and he has in-depth analysis and in-depth understanding of the bank because he joined bank since more than 3 decades. He's experienced. Anyone who wants a query regarding bank audit, always welcome to us, and he is ready to guide you on that. And with this, I'm again telling you. Um, Isaka chapter Ahmedabad was established in 2019. Dr. Khushru, doctor, is the president. Manish Naik is the vice president. Bhavik Nagori is the secretary. And Viral Jani is the treasurer. Isaka chapter is going to start a crash course soon on CISA and CSAM. There will be faculty would be called on from abroad and from Delhi, and you'll be able to get it so many things there. And I'm just closing this video so that people are not affected by that. Start a video, unmute kar. Okay, this is not the one which I would have said. Unmute, Nitin. Unmute, close your video. Okay, many more PPTs are available on blog, and there are physical presentation too is on blog. And I made a presentation last week on 148A. The one was the notices on that, which is एक second now, hide video panel and hide video meeting controls. 1/6/2020, we have taken a judgment or deliberation on Supreme Court judgment on opening of reassessment order, which is available in blog, Cloud Computing Framework, NIST Cybersecurity Framework, Cybersecurity by Sunny Vakila. These are all available on blog and YouTube. There are PPT as well as YouTube presentation. We record it and put it. You can visit there on CA Nitin Patak as well as on blog. You can get there. Audit and information system, which is taken by Mr. Satya Godgo. He has got an experience of 3 decades in bank, so you can have the advantage of bank audit there. In-depth analysis of GST on real estate transaction. This is a really 100 PPT slides, joint development agreement. Any GST issue regarding is available for real estate transaction on this blog. There are PPT as well as YouTube presentation is there. Banking, a crypto statement by honorable. पहले तो crypto कैसे इंडिया में handle करना था, which was declared by RBI Deputy Governor T. Ravishankar. There is presentation on budget जो भी नया last year का था उसमें क्या क्या है वो सब अंदर लिखा हुआ है. Crypto would be whether crypto उसका income tax में क्या impact है, which would also be available on blog. Analysis of budget, quad digital transaction is also available in there. Doctor's right on intestate property decoding by Hindu Succession Act is also on blog. Cybersecurity in myth versus reality. Supreme Court judgment on doctor's right on Hindu Succession Act. PPT on startup and its opinion. GST update on recent changes. Annual identifying. These are the few presentation available. But with this, I hand over the mic to Satya. Mr. Satya will take you to the talk today. I am just sharing the new presentation. आपका presentation कहाँ है? एक सेकेंड। हाँ, ये आपका कहाँ है? नीरव, Satya, Mr. Satya. Thank you very much for coming. Those who want CP awards, uh, just WhatsApp me. I'll give you CP awards. With this, any query regarding any subject, mail us, WhatsApp us. Any bank audit query, just email us. Mr. Satya has experience of 3 years. He done CISA and CRISC. He has taken a talk on different subject. With this, I hand over the mic to Mr. Satya. And any query, just call on us for the guidance. With this, hand over the mic to Mr. Satya.
I can sit anywhere. Thank you, Mr. Pathak, Nitin Pathak, the founder president of ISACA Ahmedabad chapter, and Dr. Kushru, the present president. And sir, am I visible? Am I audible and visible?
Audible?
Am I audible? So visible, na?
Yeah. We'll check it. 1 minute, hold on, we are checking it. 1 second.
This one, sir?
Yeah.
This one, na? This one. Okay. So very good evening, friends. Thanks once again to Nitin Pathak, ISACA Ahmedabad chapter founder president, and Dr. Kushru, the present president, and ISACA Ahmedabad. And it's an attempt for me, by me, to place before you on the cybersecurity and specifically on incident response. So the resources I used is predominantly NIST cybersecurity framework and the special publications of NIST and the ISACA booklets on cybersecurity and the ISACA 2 recent journals wherein articles on cybersecurity were there, and cybersecurity incident response book by Eric C. Thompson. So yes, in the previous session, we have discussed about cybersecurity a few weeks back. We came to one understanding that the incidents are going to be become a new normal. So the incidents are going to happen, and they are going to happen more frequently. They are going to happen more focusedly, and they are going to happen more with more tools and techniques by the adversaries. So the best available course of action to us is the incident response planning. So in this, I will discuss on the significance of incident response, then the necessary prerequisites to have a incident response plan, then the incident response frameworks, then the incident response strategy you have to adapt, then cyber risks and the attack life cycle, then detection and identification of events, and containment, and the eradication, recovery, and post-incident review, and continuous monitoring of incidents response plan for improvement in your incident response program, NIST cybersecurity framework. So to discuss about the significance of incident response, an effective incident response is critical as entity cybersecurity program and tabletop exercises must be conducted periodically. Common pitfalls to an incident response plan are lack of planning, lack of preparation, lack of leadership, lack of management support. The lack of planning, the incident response plan and the playbooks and whatever the situation scenarios, whatever you have diarized, they are inadequate, sometimes missing the key processes and actions. How you can better them? You can better them through continuous improvement process and continuous learning process only. And the second thing is lack of preparation. Effective incident response requires a lot of efforts, continuously referring to the response plan, trying to find the correct steps. And if any step is excluded, it should be incorporated, and not knowing what steps are necessary because specific scenarios were not anticipated to failure, anticipated they may lead to failure, because it's a situation scenario you have visualized and you have created your preparation, but the real life will not be there. There'll be some deviation, there'll be some changes, there'll be attackers are changing their way of doing the things in different way on a regular basis. So how best your plan is there, still there'll be gaps. So the gaps in the plan can be fulfilled, or the gap could be filled with more and more preparation. And lack of leadership. The program files requires effective leadership on the team and from management. In fact, in his book, Eric elaborately mentioned on the leadership styles and all that lead to success of the cybersecurity plan, and the incident response plan is a subset of the cybersecurity plan. Individuals who panic and lose their cool in the heart of battle do little to forge an effective response. This one thing should be very carefully noted. There should not be, you should not become panicky. The incident happens, you should be cool, as normal as possible, and you should invoke your incident plan, and you should meticulously go as per your plan. So you should not become panic. So the person who is leading the team should have utmost ability to steer in uncertain times. And lack of management support. Response teams cannot second guess themselves during an incident. During an incident, the response team requires huge management support. Suppose if you have taken some systems offline, like earlier an incident happened in a cooperative bank, in Pune-based cooperative bank, then the CBS system was made offline for a few days, 2 or 3 days, because the incident is so huge. You have to make a system offline. At that point in time, the management should not criticize your actions, and management should support you. So the robust incident response plan should get top management's support. But usually it lacks top support. If the downtime is more or something, the application owners will comment adversely on you, but it should not happen. And we'll be discussing Mediant's attack lifecycle. If you go through it, then we can generate more practice sessions, more practice scenarios. To have a robust incident response plan, actually, basically, you need there are some required necessary prerequisites. To discuss about the prerequisites, specific capabilities you should have, the organization should have for having a robust incident response planning. One is adoption of a chosen framework. You should adopt a framework, and you should have the understanding of the assets of the organization. And assets also value-based assets, information-based value, asset valuation, entire asset to universe, and value attached to the asset, high, medium, low, what is the value of the asset, and what is the assets the entity is protecting, you focusing to protect, that list of the assets you should have. And you should have a documented risks to the confidentiality, integrity, and availability of the assets. So assets should be direct on the basis of their importance, criticality, and at the same time, you should document the risks to the assets on the front of confidentiality, integrity, and availability. And the organization should have the required fundamental protective capabilities. They should pre-exist, like access control process and restriction of elevated privileges, and protection from misuse of data in motion, in use, and at rest, hardening of hardware based on established standards, understanding and management of vulnerabilities, existence of communication and control network protection, firewalls, etc. So the fundamental protective capabilities should be pre-exist. Access control, protection from misuse of data, and hardening of hardware, understanding and management of vulnerabilities, existence of communication, all this should pre-exist for an effective incident management plan. The strategy, you should adapt a strategy, and we are all aware, cybersecurity framework given by NIST, it covers the cybersecurity on the identify, protect, detect, respond, and recovery 5 phases. So in the incident response planning, we'll be more focusing on the detection part, the response part, and the recovery part. The NIST publication 861 is a huge document, and if you go through the document, it is well documented the responses to be taken. So in this document, for handling of an incident, it was mentioned first you have to identify the incident, then you have to contain the incident, then you have to eradicate the incident, then you have to recover from the incident, and you should have a post-incident evaluation. So how quickly you will identify, how quickly you can contain it, how quickly you can eradicate it, and how quickly you can recover from the incident gives the benchmark on your incident response plan. Here containment is very much important because the damage the adversary try to spread into your system horizontally and vertically with elevated privileges to the most critical servers, and with horizontally also he want to spread his presence. Whereas your strategy is to restrict him to the minimum possible. You should not allow him to spread it. You should contain him. The moment you identify a threat to your system, your responsibility or your action plan is to contain spreading of the incident. And then you have to have the adapted strategy to eradicate, how you can eradicate that malware or that uh, adversaries attempt, then you have to recover to the normalcy. Then after recovery to the normalcy, you should have a post-incident planning to evaluate and all. That will be used for your future improvement. It's lessons learned, and it should be for future improvement and also for sealing that no such incident occurs again. As discussed earlier, this special publication 861 utilizes the terms events, adverse events, and incidents. Event is any observable occurrence in a system or network. Any observable occurrence. It's a incident, it's an event in a system or network. And the adverse event is one which results in a negative consequence. And incident is one which violates or imminent to violate your policy, your data protection policy, your whatever the policies you are having on protection of your assets. If the policies are getting violated, you can, that's an incident. You can say that whatever impact it is happening to the confidentiality or integrity or availability of your data, it is an incident. An example of an event is a quarantined email. Some email came from some unknown person sender with an attachment that appears to be suspicious. That is an example of an event. System outage, on the other hand, is a adverse event. It could be either malicious or it could be accidental. It will come under the category of adverse event. And the insider threat, even insider threat or an external threat that remove data without authorization, triggers a full-fledged incident response. So something unusual happens, that is an event. If a damage happens to that event, then it's a adverse event, system outage, something like. Then something happens to your data, threat of the leakage of data, removal of data, either by insiders or outsiders, then it will lead to an incident, full-fledged incident response plan. In that case, you should be in a position to, the response plan should be invoked and you should be in a position to contain it. Usually, the incidents happen like this. The adversary will have an initial compromise, mostly through emails, or we'll discuss in the coming slides. So initially, the adversary will have will enter into your system through initial compromise. Then he established foothold. Then he will stay in your systems. Then he will maintain his presence. Then he escalates the privileges. Then he moves laterally. Then reconnaissance means he will fortify himself. He will fortify himself. He will hide somewhere and he will establish a relationship with his command control unit. Okay. And he will encrypt and keep your data in his own, in your own server without your knowing. All the things reconnaissance means he will do, the adversary will do. Then lastly, he will complete his mission, means stealing of data or whatever the act you want to do, then that will be, with that his mission will be completed. So the phases are initial compromise, establishing a foothold, maintain a presence in your networks and your servers, and escalating privileges. Usually they will come to mail servers like that, low privileged places, then they will get first into your system, then through privilege escalation, they will go to the critical servers or they will reach the critical data, move laterally, reconcile, and then complete his mission. As I told you earlier, that will be concentrating on the detection and response and recovery phases. In the detection, is that networks and physical access points are mentioned for anomalous activity. network and physical access points are monitored for anomalous activity. Event data is aggregated, analyzed against alert thresholds established based on impact to the organizational assets. Detection process are tested and continuously improved. So network and physical access points need to be monitored for any anomalous activity. Any events are happening, the data aggregation and analysis and whatever the thresholds and all, with that you will be in a position to understand what the impact it is going to happen on the assets. Then you have to detect the process. Detect process are tested and continuously improved. In the respond will be communication and coordination of event information, and the activities are established and executed during events and incidents. Alerts are categorized and investigated based on the potential impact. Responses are assessed for lessons learned, and response plans, strategies, and tactics are updated. So communications, coordination with other team members, impacted persons, it will be established, and alerts are categorized and investigated, and then responses are assessed for lessons learned, and response plans and strategies and tactics are updated. In the recovery phase, the recovery plans should be documented and tested annually. Or more frequently, it's not annually. If something happens, it's this annually concept is, it depends on the situation, but at a minimum annual basis. The execution of recovery plans during incidents and tests require performance of lessons learned. Okay, whatever happened, one incident happened, how could best you could recover from the incident. So to know benchmarking your recovery ability, the measurements are average time to detect. You should be in a position to agile to how quickly you can be detecting, that much risk will be less. And time and average to respond, how quickly you could respond. The response time is quick, you will be in a position to again contain it to a limited extent, and the losses will be minimal. And time or average time to contain it, time or average time to eradicate it. It is the four things: how quickly you will be in a position to detect it, how quickly you will be in a position to respond it, contain it, and eradicate. In his Hirik's book, he mentioned 7 to 8 months incidents, major incidents are also detected after 7 to 8 months. 7 to 8 months means the adversary is sitting in your networks and in your databases or in your system. He is sitting for 7 to 8 months. In fact, one of the biggest incident happened in a banking sector, around a financial loss of 100 crores to the bank. There also it was identified at a later date due to forensics and all. The adversary stayed in these systems for around 6 to 7 months. Here we discuss about the common methods attackers use to gather information about the targets. The more the information the adversary is having, the more the sophisticated attack he will do against the target. DNS, you are aware, the objective is to gain knowledge about the entity's domains and subdomains. Should an adversary see what devices are connected to the internet and focus on capturing IP addresses. Social media attackers can understand the entity, personal technology used, and personal issues. Even they go through your RFPs, and also that's also an information. With that, whatever solicitation of third parties and all, whatever publications you make through request for proposals and all, they will be understanding the IT infrastructure of the organization. If they understand the IT infrastructure of the organization, based on the IT infrastructure of the organization, they will have their own strategies to attack them. Email harvesting, one of the greatest sources to get the list of the entire entities uh, email addresses, a list of targets at the entity can result in mass phishing campaign that attempt to exploit the end user and gain entity. So in banks and all financial institutions where the awareness is of very important, to bank itself will make a dummy place so that the email credentials of the employees, the bank through red teaming and all, they will try to get the emails of their through a positive this one, get the emails of their colleagues and also those working in the information technology department itself, and they will inform them your email we could be able to identify and this one, and you should have a strong password, and you should have whatever the practices you are doing and all should be desist from. So the two common ways in which entities are compromised are through phishing attacks and exploiting misconfigured devices. Successful attacks are a result of extensive intelligence gathered before any active attack methods are launched. So whatever the intelligence is having, information is having, more the information, his attack will be more and he'll be more successful. The adversary will be more successful. So earlier we told that initial compromise is the first phase. In the first phase, attacker can trick end users and letting them into the environment. He will create a virtual web, like imitating web like your own website. Lure the people to come into and leave their credential there. All the security controls at the perimeter and internally can be bypassed. Taking advantage of flawed configuration in devices exposed to the internet is underway. Attackers attempt to infiltrate networks. Today's threat actors have an advantage of vast resources to take advantage of the intelligence gathered during the Recon stage. Recon stage means they will also do operations near to that of military strategies and all, like recon and all, understanding about you, more and more understanding your weaknesses, your vulnerabilities, human weaknesses, machine weaknesses, all kind of this one. If a phishing attack is the chosen method, attackers will know everything possible about the target, both personal and professional, to increase the chances of success. Then the second step is the establishing a foothold. Once inside, malicious software is used to establish a foothold in the environment. Successful phishing attacks led to control over an end user device or stolen credentials. Exploiting web applications, for example, gives the adversary a level of privileged access that is useful. The objective requires placing a backdoor into the system so the attacks can come and go. So the second stage here is the initial foothold. Escalating privileges. Once inside, the attackers want to escalate the privilege first by investigating the machines compromised. If any means of escalation exists, cyber hygiene plays a role in limiting attacker's ability to escalate privileges. The super user privileges should not be easily accessible. Earlier also it was suggested that there should be an icon or something, through that if you go only the super user privilege should be available. So the privileges should not be available. Okay, if the privileges are available easily, Once he entered into a system, he will try to escalate the privileges, and he try to enter into the more critical assets of the organization. If default administrative or service account are pervasive in the environment, it is not hard for malicious groups to compromise. Default administrative or service accounts, default accounts, every Oracle is having default account. Every software, every database is having default accounts, service accounts. If they are not changed, the passwords were not changed, they were not removed or something, it's very easy for the adversary to increase the privileges. He can gain the elevated privileges. Then he will do, after escalating of the privileges, internal recon. Internal recon means investigating connections to the machines initially compromised. Already, suppose if a persistent attacker or something already with a previous attack, he's a redoer. Already some earlier certain systems were compromised. So he's having the access to them, or he's having the information about them. So he will use them also in the new attack also. Using Nmap to uncover connections is possible. It depends on whether the attacker thinks detection capabilities exist to alert the entity of the scanning. So then moving laterally, when the attacker gets inside, then he will try to move around. The intent is to find credentials with the ability to get into the systems housing the data targeted by the attacker. The attacker will come with a specific intent in mind. His target is predetermined. So he will try to move laterally till the whatever the target he reaches it. This includes gaining entry to machines that are literally lateral moves, meaning no elevation of credentials. Lateral move is without elevation of the credentials, how much he can enter into other systems, he will try to enter into the other systems. And in the maintain presence, he will try to be there, because the more the time he is there, the impact of the attempt will be significant to him, and he can get significant gains, and he can achieve his target. So attackers will attackers are carried out over several months. Okay, that's what we are telling, that in banks also the malware existed for 6 to 7 months. And 7 months here also they are telling 7 months lag or more before detection of intrusion. This means threat actors come and go. They do this by implementing a backdoor, allowing access when time to continue the attack exists. So they will keep their backdoor open whenever they want. They will come and they will do the attack. One simple backdoor in the system as another means of maintaining persistence. If monitoring capabilities are immature, enabling this service makes reconnection easy. In the phase 3, to complete the mission, this is a single step phase. Once the attacker has found what he or she looking for, removing or changing or destroying the data comes next. If the attacker wants to steal data, it is moved via irregular means and small enough increments not to cause alarm. So the attacker also, he is aware that we guys are all working with an incident response and all. Any huge traffic, something comes to our notice, so he will try to steal in a small tranches, so that it will not go beyond the triggers. It will not trigger anything alarm. It will not do alarm like a real thief. He will do it in near hours, dark hours, and he will do without making any much of a nuisance or voice. He will do slowly his activities to avoid our eyes and our attention. Using the proceedings, the incident response team developed threat scenarios. So how we can be a better incident response team is whatever they have done, the attackers, all the three phases earlier, whatever they have done, understanding this one, if an incident happens, the incident response team develop threat scenarios accomplishing this requires thinking several key points through the attackers targeting the entry. The attackers targeting the entity means here we are having, there are specific attackers targeting specific entities. There are certain groups also working against certain geographies. So our any incident happens, it will give us a knowledge and it will sharpen our skills in understanding the what the attackers are targeting and methods, what the methods are used by the attackers to conduct the attack and complete the mission. What weaknesses it exploits, what are the weaknesses they are exploiting, what are the strategies they are adopting, and what are other similar weaknesses in the entity. If we identify, we can that weaknesses, we can quickly come out of that weaknesses so that the attacker will not spread into that place also. Actions available to reduce likelihood of success. So this is our strategies. Last three phases we are telling how he will initially sneak into your system and then how he will escalate his privileges, stay there for long time, then complete his mission. And we strategies is we will understanding what are the groups that are there targeting us, what are the strategies they are using, and what are the weaknesses in our system he is exploiting, and then how we can quickly remediate the weaknesses, then what actions available for us to reduce the likelihood of recurrence of likelihood of each success. Earlier also we discussed it, repetition. Two common ways in which attacks were lost in the last several years were exploiting end users through phishing attacks and exploiting configuration weaknesses in web applications. Two predominantly used one, phishing attacks and weaknesses in web configuration web applications. These attack vectors represent ways attackers initially gain entry and establish a foothold in entities. These risks, if high or medium, require consistent monitoring and assessment, and measuring the level of risk for the end user vulnerability and securing web applications for changes keep the entity on its toes and focused on common ways events, incidents, and breaches began. So we have to continuously measure the level of risk to the end users, and also we have to secure our web applications on a continuous basis. That's why organizations will adopt for a VAPT of web-based applications. Some organizations half yearly, some organizations on a quarterly, and the awareness, phishing attacks and all, continuous awareness, social engineering and all, not to become a prey to that. Will either internal and external, our customers also will continuously be communicate to them to not to be fall to the social engineering. For targeting and UDOS, phishing attacks are used either to gain the entity and establish a foothold, unleash ransomware. Beginning the attack, 2015 became year large breaches and all. This is all the email setting of the chain of events led to the target of a malicious domain. And phishing and ransomware, most of the people who are attending this webinar, they are all well aware of them. Then targeting web application, Equifax breach, they are telling that because the vulnerabilities, pre-existing vulnerabilities were not patched. That's why Equifax, a big breach happened. Equifax is very like Sibyl, we are having Equifax is a aggregator of customer information. Equifax, like Sibyl is, Equifax is also a agency that collects customer client information, customer data, huge data on their loans and defaults and all. Equifax, huge data breach happened just because they have not patched the already known vulnerability. Patching is so important. Again, that is also a challenge. The testing has to be carried out before patching and all, but there should be, you should have balance between patching and availability of services to the users and other impacts and other activities of the application. So a robust patch management policy should be there. N+1, some organizations will follow. Suppose Microsoft released the latest release, it will take some time, but before the second release something. But if the time is too lag, not the N+1 and all, T+1, if the time lag is too high, maximum cap should be there, 3 months or something, 2 months, something for patch updation. OWS, Open Web Application Security Project, we are all aware, all this security professional, information system professional, ISACA professional or a OWSP 2017 edition is there now. The latest version is 2021. Certain risks become their priority has changed based on the attackers, whatever the attackers, based on the incidents globally, OWASP identified, then OWSP top 10 need to be your applications and all. There should be those identified vulnerabilities should be removed from your applications. The top one is broken access control, and another one is cryptographic failures. Third one is injection, and fourth one is insecure design, and fifth one is security misconfiguration, and sixth one is vulnerable and outdated components like Windows XP, Reserve Bank of India directed public sector banks that that system should not be there in the banking industry at all, because there's no support by the vendor. The component is outdated or no end of life, end of support came and all. Component is not supported. Even security components are not supported. We have gone for a security operations center with an investment of a few crores, but maybe name QRadar or something, it got and then QRadar we are having, but outdated technologies, whatever the outdated technologies, even whatever be the investment, you have to move to the new technologies that are supportive. And identification and authentication failures, and software and data integrity failures, security logging and monitoring failures, and server side request for the server side. This is the top 10. So these are known vulnerabilities. These vulnerabilities are on the priority with ease or something, whatever is happening, the tools they are having or something, the adversaries are using these attacks. So these top 10, SANS top 10 is also there, SANS list is also there. OWSP is mostly, it is very well known. So OWSP website itself gives you a lot of information. Go through the website, and your applications and all environment should be free of this known failures that are being adopted by the adversaries, known vulnerabilities. Your systems, your applications, it's predominantly for web-based applications. Web applications should be remediated from these risks. Actually, what they mention is the cybersecurity risk items, whatever is there, whatever the attackers are doing, they are not sophisticated. They are doing with small knowledge itself, they are able to enter into our systems. Threat actors know how to find these issues and exploit them without too much efforts. If not already completed, it is important for the entity to test web applications for the presence of these issues. If any exist, the incident response team must plan all these known incidents, known weaknesses. The adversary is knowing how to exploit them and how to reach your system. So all these things, your system should be insulated from all these known web application vulnerabilities. It is how it can be accomplished by focusing detective capabilities and resources on the risks. If remediation is possible, certain risks are not possible, remediation is not possible, then reoccurrence is possible. Regarding response playbooks, these would focus on compromised credentials, data theft, malware, ransomware outbreaks, or denial of service depending on the exploit. If remediation is not possible, then you have to think how you can minimize the risk. So in summary, the planning responses to cybersecurity events is very similar to game planning or something, considering how adversaries attack based on their preferred methods and what weaknesses exist in the information system. Focus the team on specific actions to increase the effectiveness of the incident. It's a game. They are playing on that side and we are trying to protect. It's like a football. You are a goalkeeper. You should never allow any ball to come into this one. So they will be doing different tactics, and for that you should be having a reciprocal act from you to stop them. Understanding that risks to assets exist is a must. So you should never be, it's a 24/7 job. Always the adversary is always 24/7 with new techniques is adapting, and with new techniques we should be in a position to retaliate him, and we should be in a position to allow not to sneak into our system. So we should have team to have comprehensive program aimed at preparing to handle events with the potential to occur. Capabilities common in many entities to detect and response functions is data loss prevention strategies, data capture including net flow and full packets, endpoint detection and response, intrusion detection systems, firewalls, routers and switches, domain name system, application and infrastructure monitoring, and SIM is a very critical tool, security incident and event management. These are all the entities capabilities for detection. So to enhance the two capabilities, basic capabilities, the technology people who understand these are needed. The ability of the people to understand these tools that we are having to effectively use them to protect our IT environment, human resources are required. These technologies require resources to tune and maintain the implementation so that the right events are detected and non-events don't waste resources with unnecessary investigation. There should not be a false positive. There should not be a wrong alarm. Okay, sometimes it may happen, but the maturity depends on how many rights versus how many wrongs. Almost an incident trigger means that should be a positive signal, otherwise your resources will be wasted. So that skill set will come with human resources, with effective human resources, because the tools you purchase from the market. But the human who is handling with the tool should also be equally intelligent, so that false positive will not be coming. Another way of reducing the false positive is your own experience. As you are adapting the tools and techniques, various strategies, data leakage prevention strategy and all, every day is a learning to you. With the learning, you will known cases, use cases, you will be improving on your capability to protect yourself, detect yourself. implementing these type of capabilities takes time away from other priorities. The trick lies in balancing the choices. So false positive. There are several, this one also in ISACA, there is no biometrics and all. There are some rules also. Okay, how much false positive you will allow. But in our this one protection of the information system, the false positives should be eliminated to the extent possible, and maturity should come so that our ability to incident response will improve drastically. Not all detection requires technology, and users are an example of how the human element can be very effective, such as noticing phishing. Suppose one colleague received one email with an attachment or something. If he escalates to the security team and all, they will diagnose it and they will understand who is the adversary and what is his target. So email hygiene, a good email hygiene and all, and user awareness and all towards security, protect the organization to a great extent. That will add value to our incident response program. Data loss prevention, earlier we have discussed one of the strategies adopted as this one, detection strategy. DLP is implemented in a healthcare organization. It is expected to financial services organization is also DLP is implemented now. That if Euro GDPR and all, the data of a customer, if it is leaked, the financial penalties are so huge. And in India also, the Data Protection Act, if it tables and the penalties are so much critical. So every organization required to have a data protection officer, DPO, and robust data leakage preventions. Initially, it started in the banking industry, or PCI DSS payment card industry started this strategies. Then you had at your European Euro GDPR, then the domestic proposed data protection. So the acts and all, they will give and critical data. Data leakage is always a challenge to the organization, and it should be protected. This one. Suppose you should have a capability. Suppose your laptop of your CEO was stolen in an airport and all. The laptop costs 70,000, 80,000, but the data there costs several crores. If the data goes to your business plan, goes to your rival, so they will be entering and all. The financial loss could be crores of rupees. So you should have a solution wherein remote wipeout solutions and all. So from here, you should be in a position to wipe out the data. So whatever the financial physical asset has gone, data should not go out. So many DLP solutions, HIPAA, health insurance and accountability. HIPAA is a very stringent act in USA, maybe most stringent. Personal customer medical data should not be this one. And this one, personally identifiable information, Aadhaar Act and all, also PIA, personal identifiable information, IT Act also. There are stringent action to protect the data. Even UK and all, employee data is also in UK, it's very confidential. Your employees data also should not be dealt with. So data leakage protection solution is very important. And with the emerging acts and all, organization should be very careful about data loss protection. Okay, if you are having a well designed data loss protection solution, then the adversary, it will become very difficult for the adversary. He has to make more efforts to take data from you. So it will, if the efforts are more and he is not having the wherewithal technology to sneak data from your systems, then his attempt will be failed, futile. Then the endpoint detection and response. Endpoint detection and response is a capability used to detect changes made to endpoints consistent with known indicators of attacker behavior and inconsistent baselines of normal behavior. So what is the normal behavior? and what is the attacker's behavior. So endpoint detection will help us to identify. This is done by recording what takes place in the endpoint configuration file and user accounts and storing it for review and analysis. Okay, anything happens, immediately the log should be pushed to SIM and all correlations and all then your analysis should strong. So endpoint detection is a very good tool. When necessary, entities can store this data in a database or aggregate it with other data. Multiple things you cannot do. This one, you have to correlate with the multiple factors, and then you have to use the correlation solutions with the SIM and all. Then you can come about a meaningful conclusion. These solutions act in frontline detection capability and all, valuable during containment. Some implementations utilize behavior analysis and machine intelligence to alert of possible security events. These solutions allow the team to quickly respond to the event, take appropriate action. Some common players in this space include FireEye, Endpoint Security, Carbon Black, CyberSun, Total XP Enterprise Protection, Semantic Endpoint Protection, CrowdStrike, Falcon Insight, Global, very big forms they will use. They will ensure, they will give us services to endpoint protection. So traffic analysis is one of the key components. Packet capture aids incident response teams need to confirm whether suspected events exist. Organizations implement these solutions based on the incident response and monitoring strategy. So how the incident, how it will be implemented based on your strategy, incident response and monitoring strategy. Entities can choose to capture full packets, headers, steam headers, depending on the programs, depending on program needs and the solution offerings. NetFlow is another option developed by Cisco. NetFlow allows entities to capture data on the origination, destination, and the amount of data. So analyzing data is very important. Security incident and event management is very, very critical. Big data, cyber security teams, as much as it does information technology and business folks. Understanding what data is within reach and what answers are available is challenging. SIM capabilities are a focal point of cybersecurity program today. As a detection capability, SIM requires quality input to provide valuable output. So yeah, the ADAS goes garbage in, garbage out. What is the from servers or something? From all the points where the data feeding is happening, the data is the data is not qualitative data. Then the analysis will not be the analysis will not give the results, the expected results. So the feed, what is the input we received in the SIM tool, the output also, the quality of the output receives from there. So continuously the security team should liaison with the IT team and the maturity of the input data, known errors elimination and all. Continuously improvement should be there so that our correlations and all our analysis will become mature and more robust. Here they suggested development of use cases designed to address risks and attack vectors identified through planning. Well, here some of the use cases were there given examples and what they can give us this one, detect unauthorized network traffic. The use case focuses on detecting patterns indicating an attacker's
presence in the network. Detect patterns in malicious traffic. Attackers may use several vectors during an attack. Correlating those patterns in the SIM is necessary to detect the attacks and correlate attacks with known vulnerabilities. Consistent vulnerability scanning allows the security team to correlate the attack vectors meant to exploit those vulnerabilities. Malicious email activity. Patterns indicating that attackers are using email is an attempt to access the network. Detect anomalous user activity, indicating of abnormal system usage, abnormal use of credentials, or escalation of credentials. Protect critical assets. Focus log correlation and detection around assets processing the most sensitive data. So you should focus in this step on correlations and on detection around the assets processing the most sensitive data. The detect endpoint attacks. Focus on attacks designed to compromise endpoints. Often phishing emails and other attack vectors begin with a compromised laptop. Detect endpoint attacks. If you detect it quickly, you should be in a position to identify that some threat happened to our assets, and then you should invoke your policy, and you can take action for containment. Detect remote access attacks. Detect activities indicating a misuse of remote access, telnet and all methods used by outsider and insider threats. Okay, remote access is given. Even internal persons can also do malicious or accidental mistakes. So these are all the most frequently used use cases to correlate with to identify potential malicious activities. Once use cases are identified, determining what logs and information must be ingested into the SIM is next. Then new user use cases are identified and feeding of the SIM is updated. This is how capability is matured. Entities can create use cases around detecting attacks against websites, lateral movement, and other insider threat vectors. Over time, as the threats, vulnerabilities, and risks are better understood with the entity, new use cases are deployed and monitored within the Security Operations Center. The Security Operations Center should go for new use cases based on the adversaries' attempts to attack your assets. And another thing, you should have you should have a multi-layered defense to protect your critical assets. And third one is maturity of the use cases. Maturity. Your SIM tool should become more and more matured. It should eliminate all false positives and all. If you are really giving a trigger, means it should be a near 100% correct trigger. Empowering end users are the weakest link, and end users can protect your systems, and end users training and all, it will help in your recovery strategies. Okay, end users are a detection capability. Human is also having a detection capability. Like earlier also discussed, email directed at them, intended to gain a foothold inside the entity, land in boxes every day. When the end users identify modified emails, it prevents successful attacks and allows the security team to investigate them. How savvy the end users are determines how effective this group is at detecting attempts to infiltrate the network. One way to increase the effectiveness of the end users is through training with phishing simulations. So through simulation, phishing mails will be sent. Then whether you will be understanding whether the user is opening or not. So through the simulation, phishing simulation, we can increase the end user competency. The idea is to keep security and a cautiously suspicious eye on email communication and unknown sources. It serves another capability to detect events early. So how you train your end users, it will become their intelligence, their cautiousness will become another preventive capability. It's a detective capability. Events, intrusion detection system, firewalls, application and infrastructure logs, and database and operating systems are other sources of alerts. So those who are using SCM and all, extensively, they'll be understanding, they'll be knowing, every day they'll be dealing with that IDS, firewalls, application and infrastructure logs, database. Actually, SIM tool, all these things will go. Then this tool will be trying to, through with that correlation engine and all, trying to trigger the alerts. Operating systems are other sources of alerts and evidence used to confirm that an event or incident occurred. Intrusion detection system works at the network level, analyzing traffic traversing between hosts and at the host. These solutions are intended to identify unusual behavior and events known to be malicious. So these solutions are known indicators and the intelligence captured from past events by the solution provider, and advanced implementations use artificial intelligence or machine learning to understand what is normal inside a network and a host and on a host. These devices can be standalone or come packed with other solutions. So now several organizations make it extensively using AI and ML, and also they are making the human intervention minimal. So everything will be this one automated, so that the human error is eliminated. So we have ideas, we have then firewalls. They primarily preventive capability, but traffic passing through, it can be archived and used to correlate events. Discussed earlier in this chapter, net flow capabilities, especially the firewalls collect data related to all the traffic coming and out of our network and traffic blocked. This is important evidence when investigation all types of events. So firewalls can be not only a preventive tool, it can be a detective tool also, because the traffic, whatever the traffic and all, we analyze the traffic flows, it can be used as a detective tool. Depending on the application, auditing features capture successful and unsuccessful login attempts, user activity, configuration changes. Not all applications offer this extensive logging, but if available, entity should utilize it. Certain applications, they will, it's not feasible, they will not enable audit log if huge data comes and all the server. The availability issues and other issues will come, so they will take a conscious decision of not having the logs. But wherever application, these logs are there, successful attempts, unsuccessful logins, user activity, multiple unsuccessful login, indicate something abnormal, somebody trying to enter into your systems. And activities, configuration changes, and all these can trigger into a detection. Domain and system logs and capture connections to known malicious IP addresses and domains. Routers and switches contain log data from traffic passing through used during the investigation. Routers and switches also, their logs also can be used for traffic passing and for analysis. Infrastructure logs come from the database and operating system. These logs capture events specific to the servers, hosting applications and databases. The most commonly used operating systems, Windows and Linux, are used. Each type with the ability to audit certain events. Events camp, Windows events camp, events captured by Windows. Event logs identified by Microsoft. Event logs, Windows event logs are description, account logon, credential validation, account management, change to computer, user and group accounts. Then detailed tracking, encryption events, process creation, process termination, and RPC events. Then detailed tracking, encryption events, process creation, process termination, and RPC events. These access, Active Directory access, log on, log off, again, successful log on and log off by user. It also gives critical information. Object access, access to files, folders, applications, and registry. It should be synced with your access control list. Need to do, need to know concept and abnormality. Here we'll find out. It will lead to trigger. It will trigger into an alert. Policy change to audit policies. Privilege use, audit the use of privilege. System, change to security subsystem. So the event logs captured by Windows containing all these, some of this, it will be helpful if captured and analyzed in your SIEM tool. You can understand and you can raise incidents. Sometimes, because we are doing all the things, the attackers often cause seemingly unrelated events to occur in multiple devices. You should be careful. They will also have equal strategies. They will also make you disturb. They will do unrelated activities, create unrelated events and all to misguide you. So you should be aware of that, and you should be careful whether he is wantedly misguiding you. You should be very analysis. You should have, for that your human knowledge is required. Earlier Windows we have mentioned, now Linux event log, successful user login, failed user login, user log off, change to user accounts or deleted accounts, sudo action, service failure. Just as in the Windows scenario, the best use of logs collected are via analysis by a SIM or another log correlation. Logs, huge logs will be there, volume, unless the tool is there, effective tool is there, you will not be in a position to understand or derive anything out of the logs. Tools are required. Or SIEM can be used as a tool. Depending on the database in use, some variance of events captured across different types. Many database events of interest are like those mentioned in the Windows and Linux event logging, successful and failed login attempt, changes to accounts, changes to data structure and schemes and privileged accounts. These events deliver clues to suspicious activity in these environments. Whatever, either in Windows or Linux, whatever we are telling, successful logins, failed logins, and all will give clues whether the things are properly being carried out or unscrupulous persons are dealing with us. Identification of security events. Security events and incidents are detected in many ways. End users, they contact help desk for any abnormal activity. Digital capabilities trigger alerts, and outside entities, law enforcement. So your own user group, your own employees, they can trigger in a normally to a help desk, and your own detection capabilities, whatever we have discussed, and external incidents. That's why in India also, the CERTIN also made it mandatory that any incident has to be reported, so that what happens, the entire world will be knowing. If somebody victimized a system, and we will not be victimized with the same strategy, so same modus operandi. So that's why CERTIN also made the disclosures mandatory. So some external agencies will also disclose. In fact, this happened the other day also. I shared Cosmos Bank, Cooperative Bank, the triggers they received first from Visa US. They told huge traffic is happening in your bank on a holiday, Saturday and Sunday, weekend. So Visa is they are the first ones. Here I can say you should have multi-card agencies also, not depending on one. Master we should have, Visa we should have. Okay, we are having our own domestic, but having type with a foreign agency foreign is also not wrong, because it's the Visa that has given the input that about the malicious traffic in the case of a Pune-based bank. So the early stages of an event are critical. When a moment comes, kicking off an investigation fluidly and without confusion is a must. Okay, that's what earlier told, that the person should not get panicky. You should, the investigation is happening, you should do it without, you should do it with maturity and with confidence and with this one. Okay, he is fighting. What can you do? You can't leave the data center and you can't run away. You should be cool, calm, and you should adapt your own strategy based on the strategies he's adapting, and you should be in a position to how quickly you will be in a position to contain it. So ignoring an alert or not following the correct process causes ineffectiveness. You should be very careful. Even the smallest thing, even a smallest event could trigger into a risk. Even if we incident that all the risks, known risks, should be any alert. A police alert was a police internal security alert was ignored by Madam Srimati Gandhi. They told they wanted to change the after the Punjab agitation and all. The Madam Indira Gandhi security wanted to change the security guards who belong to that region, but she refused. And ultimately, that whatever the alert given by the security proved correct, and they assassinated her. So, so you should not ignore any small alert also. This is where the playbooks come in. And no matter what type of event taking place, a documented process should exist to conduct initial triage and any necessary escalation. So nothing should be ignored. The detailed process, whatever mentioned in the cyber resilience recovery policy, incident response policy, that should be invoked, and that should be then after that only it should be then it should be decided whether to escalate it or not escalate it. Nothing should be ignored. Triaging the event is important. Initially, its investigations focus on understanding if events are benign or part of a malicious campaign. Events of low consequence should be closed by the help of security disk without failure, without fanfare. Small incidents you should not give much of a this one. An incident happens again, it's business risk and all, your other people will also be wondering what happened, what. So small incident should be closed with the, without any much this one, security desk should close it. Significant events are escalated for further analysis. Successful completion of this step leads to successful responses. Significant event should be escalated and it should be analyzed for further action. Sensitivity of the impact might include the following criteria to understand the impact level. Sensitivity of the asset involved in the event. Earlier also we told that one, what is the asset, what is the sensitivity. Impact to business operations and ability to recover. What is the impact to the business? What is the ability to recover? Financial impact not related to downtime and lost productivity. So what are other financial impacts that are happening? Productivity will be lost, downtime, financial losses will be there. Besides that, what else could be the financial loss? So we should be, the sensitivity depends on assets involved, the impact to the business, and the ability to recover quickly. I can come back. Its dollar value loss is minimal. What could be its financial impact other than downtime, other than low productivity? This should be analyzed. The impact level derives from the considerations discussed here. If operations are impacted, the time required to restore them influences the impact. Sensitive assets such as customer data, intellectual property, or confidential data can be high impact targets. Events causing legal fees, like customer data breach happened, you will be having legal suits from your clients, and reputational damage will happen. So the cost of the impact should be analyzed considering these things. The overall severity of the event is based on how widespread the issue is. Earlier itself, from the beginning, we are telling once incident happens, our job role is to contain it to the minimum possible. So the impact or the dollar value of loss depends on how wide the incident is there, event. A quick recap of what we have learned so far is identification of the first step in response to the events and incidents. Identification. Then detective capabilities built within the entity provides the identification, and the end users detect the suspicious activities and alert cybersecurity person. But technological capabilities provide much of the means used for the identification. Entities of the smaller size often deal with large volumes of data, so much that it becomes necessary to automate and analyze data and correlate events. Mature security program gather data from many sources such as applications, application servers, firewalls, intrusion detection and prevention systems, packet capturing, endpoint detection response, DNS, security monitoring, DLP solution, EDR solution, infrastructure, operating systems and databases. So the program should gather all these things, and in a SIM or in a very matured application, these should be analyzed and they should be correlated, and there should be whatever the required information we want should be inferred from it. Data needs a place to go and a way for analysis to occur. There should be the capacity of the servers and all should be in such a way that there should be a free flow for our internal investigations and internal understanding and internal capturing of our data from multiple sources. So data needs a place to go, and security events span many indicators. These indicators may make obvious that the attack is occurring, and others may be only hinting at this. The increased use of SIM solution was designed to identify all the subtle hints of an attack and alert cybersecurity teams. These represent just some of the capabilities organization need to implement to identify potential security incidents. Then the most important part is the containment. Containment comes after identifying an event and concluding that the action is required to limit its impacts. Entities must understand the fundamentals of containment, the steps necessary to gather information on the event's characteristics and how to identify the population of affected systems and users and quarantine these systems until the situation is resolved and business is back to normal. So in the containment phase, you will be in a position to identify what are all the population affected by the affected systems by this virus, and who are the users. So all these things should be quarantined till the business was restored back to normal. These actions are undertaken by internal resources or outside experts. Like earlier, we told that small companies may not be having the wherewithal and the ability to have a full-fledged capability center or security operation center. So they have to depend on a outside agency. Even cooperative banks in India, their security operation centers are hosted by some big four or other HCL or other companies like. So they have to depend invariably some of the players on outside agencies. A strategy built around objectives drives the containment. The common approach is to identify the symptoms, quarantine the systems, and get back to business as soon as possible. Some approaches seek to confirm attribution to specific attack groups and monitor the attacker's movement. Another strategy is to quickly identify all affected systems and prepare each for eradication. There may be some cases in which following an attacker's movement is prudent, but for many organizations, the risk of observing and not acting is high. Indicators of compromise. The indicators of compromise are artifacts and the evidence observed inside information systems, configurations and existence of attackers. These indicators of compromise include virus signatures, change to file systems and registries, and outbound and inbound connections to and from known malicious URLs and domains, to name a few. The indicators of compromise should be known to you so that you can contain them. So whatever discussed here, virus signatures, change to file systems and registries, outbound and inbound connections to and from unknown malicious URLs and domains, yes, they're all indicators of compromise. These threat intelligence documentation, documenting indicators from known threat groups adds context to investigation. Known threat groups, earlier we have geography based actors are also working. So known threat groups, you have to document the indicators from known threat groups. When indicators point to potential threat actions at the source of an attack, the response team may be able to quickly ascertain the systems affected by searching for known indicators of that group. When the indicators, whatever the indicators earlier discussed, they indicate threat actors at the source of an attack, the response team may be quickly ascertain the system affected by searching for the known indicators of that group. The groups are also having one way of doing the attacks. With that, the security team can understand what are the systems they impacted. Then the containment is most important. The containment fundamentals
we are discussing here. Containment is about limiting the damage done by the attackers. The financial loss will be reduced if you contain the damage to limited place only. This is achieved by keeping the attacker away from key assets, not yet compromised. So if you identify quickly the key assets that were not compromised, you should have a defense in the depth policy to protect them so that the attacker can't reach them. Containing an event or incident requires identifying indicators of the attack and identifying them in other systems. Early in the process, initial indicators are the focus. Once a system is suspected of being compromised, it should be isolated. Sorry for this one. So I kept my mobile data off. So containment is about limiting the damage done by the attackers. This can be achieved by keeping the attacker away from key assets that are not compromised. And containing an event or incident requires identifying the indicators that we discussed. And some of the ways to contain here mentioned: unplugging the network cable, putting the machine in the sleep mode, and isolating the machine so that it cannot receive data via changes to DNS and firewall rules. Once all the identified systems are imaged, the response team, after the systems are isolated, image should be taken for use during the investigation. This you can go through the slide and you can understand this from this slide. And the strategy, I'm discussing about the containment strategy. Entities must assess the capabilities for containing events and incidents. Once they are identified, small and medium-sized limited resources responding properly, events, identifying the indicators, uncovering them in information system and taking forensic images. These companies may have to go for an outsourced vendor or somebody to help them in these activities. Specialized skills are not often possessed internally. Even forensic images and all keeping is not that easily available, and that is required tomorrow to go to court of law or some other any customer proceeds against you legally. This safeguarding the forensic images are important. So this log protection and all, it should be required to be given to an outside agency. Malware steps taken to contain a malware was given here. How the steps taken can contain a malware, they are indicative only, you can go through them. Then denial of service is a critical risk. Even it was mentioned in Western countries during Christmas time and all, rivals also go for denial of service attacks on their trade rivalry and all. So you have to protect your services from denial of services or distributed denial of services. And the indicators of data theft here, it was mentioned, database dumps, work performed outside the office hours, emails returned owing to the size, local disks and network share, full use of removable storage devices. These are all indicators of data theft. As we discussed, data is very critical to an organization. We should be careful about it. And misuse of unauthorized access or misuse of assets. There are some indicators. Access outside normal business hours, numerous login failures, users logged out of account without having failed login attempts, unexplained use of dormant accounts, unauthorized creation of accounts, increased logins of a system, unexpected, unexplained system restart or failures. All these are indicators of unauthorized access and misuse of assets. So eradication and recovery, it was mentioned, and removing attackers' artifacts, malware, it was mentioned how you remove malware and ransomware, how you remove denial of service, how you remove rootkits. Malware, it is suggested you delete the file and you remove the file changes and reverse the registry change, registry changes. Denial of service, update the rules set in firewalls and the intrusion prevention system. Implement a new technology if required to prevent such occurrence. Rootkits, locate original image of machine, re-image machine and build OS from scratch. So there are some of the how we can remove an attacker's attempt through malware and all. Malware attacks, we have already mentioned rootkits. Rootkits, attackers use rootkits to create backdoors. So we are earlier mentioned that they are going out to continually return to and carry out malicious objectives. So how careful you should be about rootkits. Attackers install rootkits by making changes to the file system, enabling persistence, because such activities, privileged attackers make sure evidence of the rootkit's existence is hidden. So you are more challenging. So the rootkit is also, existence is also hidden. So it's difficult to detect by you. Vulnerability scanning and patching will help you with known vulnerabilities. Periodically, it should be carried out. Restoring system backups, one of the in financial industry and all, if any unintentionally also something happens, disruption of data, then you will have the data with that you will restore, and then you start entering the all the unposted transactions or something. Restoring the systems via backups is important. And post-incident review. Post-incident review, we'll be going again 1 minute about vulnerability scanning, patching vulnerabilities. You, whatever there here mentioned, you please go through them. Restoring the systems and backups. Restoration is the only answer to eradicate. If we restore, so it will go to the previous time, date and timestamp. So whatever you have done today, all this will be wiped out. It will go to the previous portion. Then you have to redo all the transactions. The incident response team often must work with the infrastructure team to facilitate this process. Once images of the affected systems are captured, this removes anything left behind by the attackers. So whatever attackers have done, anything you can remove through a restoration of the backups. And post-incident review is very important. One of the most important and often forgotten. If an incident happened and if we come out of it, we'll forget it. But no, you have to have a incident response program should understand it. What went wrong? Again, you have to the incident response plan should understand what are the lessons learned in that incident that should be captured, and whatever your strategies, they need to be changed or updated, or the investigation, training events and all. Opportunities to discuss the events as a team is an opportunity to learn about the and improve the responses. So it's an attempt made by me based on the NIST cybersecurity framework. The points pertain to
the restoration, the incident response, and we discussed predominantly on the uh, on the 5 domains are there in NIST cybersecurity framework. We have discussed on the 3 domains. What is the detection? It is the detection and response, detect, response, and recover. Thank you so much for your patience learning. And an updated this one, a modified PPT I will give to Nitin sir for hosting. This will be hosted initially, and any betterment I can do to the PPT reduction of the slides and all I will do, and in a more better manner I'll be in a position to give you the PPT to you. Thank you so much.
Friends, wonderful talk by Goodgo. Needless to add that we now have any question to Mr. Goodgo will be answered very shortly. And you can mail me and we would reply. Mr. Goodgo is working in he is working as a DGM in a bank, and he knows in and outs of the bank audit. That is his core area of competence, and you can always take advantage of his talk, his knowledge. He's done CISA as well as 1 second. Just I am just a second. Okay, I'm just changing the slide. 1 second. Okay, there are a few presentation available. Let me tell you a few things. ISACA chapter this is the 3rd year of ISACA chapter. Those who want CPA hours can mail me, WhatsApp me. I'll see that you get a CPA hours. Number 2, we are going to have a CISA season course very shortly, crash course, which would be physically at my office, as well as if there are more members, we will go to our school. We have a school in Thaltej where we might have a class which would be available to you. 3rd, we would have a Zoom session. Who cannot come, we would be providing a Zoom session. And ISACA is doing so many activities. You are requested to join ISACA activity. Recently in our blog, my blog is cnitinmpathakblogspot.com. We have put a 148A reassessment judgment which is delivered by Supreme Court, which removed 9,000 writ petition, more than 9,000 writ petition. There is a whole reassessment proceedings which is discussed in detail in order to avoid some unnecessary notice coming to you. There are different lectures on system, cloud computing, NIST, cybersecurity framework, cybersecurity by Sunny Waghela, why SWIFT is banned, and what would be the impact on Russia. Russia has already taken a lot of homework to see that it doesn't affect it. Audit of information system, in-depth analysis of GST real estate transaction is also explained in our blog. Joint development agreement, to all the details regarding what are the rates for cement, what are the rates for contract, subcontract, what are the contract, how can you go for a composite scheme is explained. What is the scope of crypto is also explained. India is going to launch crypto very soon before the coming election. Budget, last budget is also explained, and what are the crypto and virtual digital and taxation is also available on blog. Analysis of budget, daughter's right on inheritance is also explained on the blog. There are so many things available. You are most welcome to take lectures with this. Anyone, there are so many CPO's recommendation is is our presence is, we have noted the presence also. This is available on LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter, and many more places, in even in Telegram. So many people can be benefited with this. I once again we thank you, Satya, for coming and giving a detailed lecture. Anyone who are interested in bank audit and having a problem, email me. Satya will be there to guide you. Thank you very much. With this, we are closing today's session. Thank you once again. See you. Stop recording. Thank you once again, everyone. Bye.